Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news as we discuss Jude Bellingham, an update coming out from The Athletic in relation to what's happening with Jude Bellingham and Dortmund's initial price set, which makes it very, very interesting. Can Manchester United get involved in these transfers anymore? I don't think they can, and I'll explain why in a moment. Also, we're going to be talking about Lisandro Martinez. Lisandro Martinez very much sitting down his critics. And are we at a point now where we really need to look at this and call it out, the laziness? I mean, this morning I'm hearing stuff about Brighton's new manager and he might struggle because they don't know any, critics and pundits don't know anything about him because he's not from England. It's just lazy. It's lazy punditry at this point, I think. And Martinez is definitely going to expose that on this show this morning. But before we get on to all of that, you can see I've got a lovely Manscaped QR code for you there. What is Manscaped? Well, it's been a while. You're going to get excited, I'm sure. Manscaped is male grooming. Trim the grass to make the yard look bigger. That's what it's all about. The Lawnmower 4.0. If you've got a bush going on down there, you can trim it, make things look better and bigger with the best male grooming kit in the world. Manscaped, trim the grass to make the yard look bigger. We've got 20% off for you and free worldwide shipping through Manscaped. They've also got the performance package as well, where we've got everything you need to sort yourself out. Inside, you'll find the Lawnmower 4.0, the Weed Whacker, which is for up the nose. Probably shouldn't do it live. I've had problems with that before. You need to see what you're doing. And Crop Preserver, Ball Deodorant, Crop Reviver, Toner, Performance Boxer Briefs, and a travel bag to hold your goodies. The travel bag's fantastic, actually, because if you are travelling, you can also put deodorants and stuff like that in there. It's got cutting-edge technology, advanced skin-safe technology, has a 7,000 RPM motor, new multifunctional on-and-off switch, adjustable lengths if you want to do it at different lengths, electromagnetic induction, power charging, so you don't need to, it's wireless basically, and it's also waterproof, and it's got a light on it for a more precise shave. So really is fantastic Manscaped products. Do scan the QR code or go through the link in the description. The code for you is United Stand, but it should come up automatically. Like I said, 20% off, delivered to your door, free worldwide shipping as well. Make sure you check out Manscaped. Fantastic products. And I'm sure you'll really, really enjoy them. So big shout out to Manscaped, who are joining us on the show and supporting the channel. Thank you very much for that. Right, let's go straight into this then. So we're going to start off with headlines coming in from The Athletic. Lots of things about Jude Bellingham at the moment, but this is quite key. Borussia Dortmund value Jude Bellingham at around 150 million euros, which of course is about 131 million pounds. Morning, Mark. I had a dream I bought the club and made you director of football, says Mikael Roach. Very, very, very intelligent thing. I can also be manager as well if you want. But look, I think the reason we're talking about this is because Jude Bellingham has been linked to Manchester United in The Athletic. He's also been linked to Real Madrid, Manchester City, Chelsea and Liverpool. We already know that, I nearly said Liverpool have got a hard on. We already know that Liverpool have got a real belief that they're going to get this Jude Bellingham deal done. And I must say, you can have a deal sorted this early in the summer transfer in the season. Michael Binzer, welcome to Members Club. Thank you very much for supporting the channel. Appreciate that. Don't forget to check out our exclusive content as well, and you'll have your badge next to your name now as well. I remember when Manchester United wanted Antoine Griezmann all those years ago. That deal was basically done in November, and it wasn't until we hit June when he pulled out at the last minute. So, these deals can be sorted very, very early on in a season before the summer transfer window. But knowing how Borussia Dortmund work, I just don't think a conversation has taken place between Dortmund, Liverpool and Bellingham in September to say, yeah, let's do a deal, because the World Cup's got to happen. If he starts in the World Cup next to Declan Rice, his price goes up. If Dortmund continue to do well, his price goes up. So I don't think Dortmund will entertain anybody at the moment. And I think, actually, if they're saying the price is 150 million euros and there is no release clause, then this deal, the more pertinent question for me, the Griezmann story for Manchester United is not true. Imperial X, watch the interview I did with Fabrizio on Monday. The more interesting thing for me about Bellingham is it's not whether United are interested. I'm sure they are. It's whether United can do this sort of deal anymore, because the Athletic goes on to state that Manchester United, it's no longer Old Trafford, Carrington, Manchester United. It's no longer the draw it was, because most clubs, if you look at Man City, Real Madrid, the facilities that they have at those clubs now and the infrastructure and the spending they've put into their training facilities vastly outdo what Carrington's got to offer or Old Trafford's got to offer now. I mean, you look at what they're doing with the Bernabeu, the training complex they've got. We are basically, because of the Glazers, let's be honest, Manchester United's reliance is on the past. Now, I love the past. I love what we've achieved. It's been fantastic. But the future cannot rely on the past. Not in football, it can't, because look at, the history books are littered with teams that used to be good that aren't good anymore. So we've got to be very, very careful about that. And the facilities at Manchester United are important. I think people are waking up to this more and more, that, if Carrington is nowhere near as good as what Man City have got or Real Madrid have got, and the ground is nowhere near as good as what they've got, and then the team is nowhere near as good as they've got, what's a player coming to Manchester United for apart from the name of Manchester United? But that name has been diluted by what we've done in the last 10 years. We haven't been in a title race. And it was interesting what Brian Robson said yesterday about how they really thought they'd got Jude Bellingham, but they didn't. Because the Athletic article says that Man United had been monitoring Jude Bellingham since he was 12 and had been told he was going to be very special. So this story is really interesting. I think this is a really interesting story to get your head around, because it's not just about price tag, 150 million euros for Bellingham. Can United buy him? I'm not going to make the mistake of saying United can't buy him, because we've done deals that I didn't think we could do. I didn't think we could get Pogba when we did. I didn't think that we could get Anthony for 100 million euros, and we did. Whether those deals were good deals or bad deals, sometimes Manchester United do go and do deals that you don't expect. So I'm not going to sit here and say that Manchester United can't sign Bellingham. I'll tell you why I don't think they can in a moment. But I do think there's a really interesting aspect to this story, because when the Athletic are saying that Man United are no longer the draw they used to be because Carrington and Old Trafford can't compete with the money and facilities that other clubs have now, I think that's true. And then when Brian Robson is saying we thought we'd got him and we didn't get him, remember Jude Bellingham, before he went to Dortmund, actually was pictured coming out of Carrington with his dad, with a smile on his face. His dad, I think, don't know about Jude. He met Sir Alex Ferguson there. This was in the Solskjaer era, and he chose to go to Dortmund. And I will say this, even as a Manchester United fan, he made the right decision. Do you think he made the right decision? I can't see how he didn't make the right decision. Because if he'd come to Manchester United, there is absolutely no way Solskjaer would have picked him in that midfield. He'd have been on loan back at Birmingham. He'd have been playing Carabao Cup games. He was playing Champions League games within months of joining Dortmund. His development at Dortmund has been way better than it would have been under Solskjaer at United. So he made the right choice. How do Manchester United solve these problems? We have to make it. When a player comes to Manchester United, they're not driving out to go to Dortmund like Jude Bellingham did, making the right choice. If they choose to go to Dortmund in the future, it's got to be the wrong choice for them. Now, of course, I think with Ten Hag now, it's already very different. But Ten Hag can't rebuild Carrington. He can't rebuild Old Trafford. This is going to start hurting us in the first... It is still going to be a problem. It doesn't matter how good Ten Hag is. Manchester United is a decaying structure in relation to stadia, facilities. Which brings us back to the ever-present question. You cannot just spend 100 million euros on Anthony and 60 million pounds on Casemiro and say, I mean, I said it at the weekend. I said, United aren't going to spend in January apparently, but I bet they'll do dividends. To which there was loads of rival fans sticking their nose in. They've just spent 100 million. I'm like, just jog on. Like, nobody's invited you into this conversation. It's exclusively for Manchester United fans. I don't care what a Liverpool or an Arsenal fan think about the Glazers. You don't know what you're on about. It's like walking into a Spanish restaurant when you can't speak Spanish and trying to order everything off the menu. You're going to make yourself look a prat. And that's what rival fans do when they stick their nose in. Because all they've ever got is, you've spent £1 billion in the last 10 years. You just spent 100 million on Anthony. Yeah, and our ground is decaying and our facilities are shit. What are you going to do now? Yeah, I've exposed myself as a bloody idiot, haven't I? Yeah, now jog on. Because they don't understand. It's not about... Glazonomics actually are just chucking money at players to make the fans be quiet. If you look at the last 10 years, we've done that a lot. It's not... The Glazers is not just about their dividends and the debts. It's also about how they manipulate the fan base to make it out that they're actually, trying to be successful. Their ignorance around Old Trafford and the facilities have actually destroyed us. And I think it's now becoming a problem, because if you're a young player now, and Real Madrid are saying, look, this is our training facility, this is our ground, And Man United are going, we won't show you the ground, it's leaking at the moment. And the training facilities, one day we're hoping to fix the swimming pool and the toilets. It's just not as attractive as it should be. Manchester United is the Bayern Munich of England. It is the Real Madrid of England. It is the PSG of England. It is the Juventus of England. We are the biggest club in England. No English club can argue that. They can say they're better, but they can't say they're bigger. We're the biggest club in England. Us and Liverpool are the two biggest clubs in England, and we're the biggest. And yet, when it comes to facilities, I don't even know if we're in the top 6. I would say Arsenal have got better facilities. Spurs have definitely... Spurs kick our ass. Spurs have got a hotel at their training facility. Each player has a hotel room, so if they want to stay over, they can. I guarantee there's nowhere to stay over at Carrington. So look, Spurs have got better facilities. Man City have got better facilities. I'd imagine Liverpool and Chelsea have got better facilities. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. And this is another major reason why pressure needs to be put onto the Glazers, because we are decaying as a football club, because our structure should have been invested in a long, long, long time ago. But can we get Jude Bellingham? That's the question. And I don't necessarily think that Bellingham will go to Real Madrid or Man City or Spurs or wherever else because they've got better facilities. It might be a consideration. But I don't think Manchester United can get into this race for Jude Bellingham, because 150 million euros now, I think he's going to have a good World Cup. So they'll probably knock that price up to 150 million pounds. That's a lot of money for Manchester United to spend when we need 4 or 5 players. And you get stuck in the De Jong deal again, don't you? And De Jong was nowhere near this amount of money. If Man United go for Jude Bellingham, that's the budget gone. So for me, there's a good reason why Bellingham probably should be avoided by United, because we're not 1 player away from being the team we need to be. We're 5 or 6 players away. So unless you're going to spend 500 million going after Bellingham, although it might be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, it doesn't really fit in with what we need to do next summer. So that's a consideration. But the most important consideration here is, if Bellingham was being sold now, we wouldn't win that race. Man City are better than us, Real Madrid are better than us, Liverpool are better than us, and Chelsea would argue that they are as well. So we'd be right down the queue. To get in this race for Bellingham, we need to be in the Champions League next summer. We need to be competing with the best teams this season. We can't do it in the Champions League, but we can do it in the league. And then maybe, then Bellingham might consider Manchester United. But we are not in... I think the takeaway here is we are not in this type of deal anymore. And forget Jude Bellingham for a minute. Erling Haaland was a player that we really wanted when he went from Salzburg to Dortmund. Erling Haaland was a player we knew about from Mulder. So we were not even in the race for Haaland this summer. We're just not in that race. And the reason we weren't in that race is because we were not an attractive proposition to start off with. Forget whether we could afford it. We just weren't in the race. We're not in the race for people like Jude Bellingham at the moment, because that's how bad the club has been for the last few years. To get in that race, you've got to be in the top 4 and you've got to be competing in the top competitions. United could put themselves in the race by April, but that is not where we're at the moment. Man City will be in that race. Real Madrid will be in that race. Liverpool will be in that race, because they've established themselves as big hitters in world football and competitors. To get in these races, Manchester United have got to do a lot better. So at the moment, I think Jude Bellingham, it's nice to be linked to him, and I'm sure we will be. But if we don't get in the top 4, it will go the same way as Haaland. We won't even be involved in the bidding in the summer. So he isn't worth that money, says M1K3. Look, I'm a big fan of Jude Bellingham. When you look at it, what is it? He played 33 games as a 16-year-old in the Championship. I mean, that to me is like, wow. His Wikipedia page already at 19 is sensational. You're looking at a generational talent here. And I think the fact that he's playing in the Bundesliga probably just, dilutes the expectation a little bit. It's not a bad thing. It's what Sancho did. But he's still only just 19. How many games has he played in the Champions League? How many games has he played for Dortmund? 16 years of age playing in the Championship. He's a very, very, very special player. And I would definitely want him at Manchester United. But for me, he is he's not an icing on the cake player. He's an addition to an already very good team. If you're Liverpool, perfect. If you're Man City, yeah, let's just bring him in. If you're Real Madrid, let's just bring him in. For United, if that was our budget, I wouldn't want it all spent on Bellingham because we need to spend a lot more, don't we? But be interesting to see how it runs. But I think for me, the most important thing about this is, and I think James Cave has said it with his super chat here. Speaking of attracting young players, what do you make of Marcus Edwards at sporting performances? I think he could be a good versatile forward option. He's doing particularly well, James, and I think there's a good record of players coming in from Sporting and doing very well in the Premier League, and none more so than Bruno Fernandes. So he's certainly somebody to consider. But I think you make a good point, James, because I think that that's the sort of player that's probably more realistic for Manchester United at the moment. And the interesting thing that got me about this story from The Athletic this morning was that talking about the facilities, talking about the ground, talking about whether United have got that pull at the moment. And we don't. And for all the improvement on the pitch, and I can see the improvement on the pitch, and for all the excitement around Ten Hag, and there is a lot of excitement around Ten Hag, we are where we are. We've got a very difficult run of games coming up. We could easily find ourselves going into the World Cup in 6th or 7th or 8th position. We could find ourselves comfortably in the top 4. We're very much in that area of excitement but uncertainty. We're not in the conversation for people like Jude Bellingham at the moment. We could be by the summer. That would mean competing with the big teams and being in the top 4. But we're not in these competitions at the moment. And that's not just because of how badly we performed last season. It's also because of what we are perceived as a football club. In the transfer market, I've not even mentioned it, we're considered a joke. So when you do go and queue up to deal with Dortmund, Man City are serious, Real Madrid are serious, Liverpool are serious, Man United are a joke. So that doesn't help us either. We're not in these races because we haven't got the facilities, we haven't got the infrastructure, we haven't got the transfer team, and we haven't got the status on the pitch. So at the moment, we can't put ourselves in these deals. Let's hope we can do over the coming months and years. Mark, Bellingham is a world class. I wonder if he is an Eric Ten Hag type of player. I would get De Jong, says Mikael Roach. Yeah, well, it's interesting what was said about De Jong, wasn't it? I monitor a lot of things on the international break, as I'm sure you do. Because you get a lot of interviews and a lot of people talking about the football, players on international duty. Louis van Gaal was asked specifically about whether he told players in the summer not to join other clubs, and he said, "Look, I spoke to a number of players and said, I'd rather you stay where you are because you'll be playing regular football ahead of the World Cup. But ultimately, it's your decision." Obviously, we know Timber stayed and a couple of others stayed, but he did reference Memphis and De Jong and said, ideally, I'd like them to be playing more football. So I think as much as Van Gaal probably said to Timber and others, don't move because, I want you to stay playing regular football. For Van Gaal, it would have been better for De Jong to be playing regularly for Manchester United than to be sat on the bench at Barcelona. But he might well win. We might well win his place back. We'll have to wait and see. Subic says, forget Bellingham. He's again an overpriced British player for playing for Dortmund. Cameron, welcome to that. Thank you very much for being a member for 2 months. If you want to join the members club, by the way, thanks for supporting the channel. You can do it by clicking the join button. You get exclusive content each week and your badges. And we've got a lot of other stuff coming up over the next couple of months as well. So check it out. I don't think Bellingham is overrated. I think Bellingham's a really good player, and I think he'd suit the Premier League fantastically well. He's got that energy, box-to-box talent, can hit a ball, can pass a ball. I think he would suit the Premier League really, really well. But, of course, we've dealt with Dortmund. They ain't going to mess about. You're not going to get him on the cheap. You're going to pay big, big money. Man City have got a good relationship with Dortmund. I wouldn't rule them out. You could see Man City just doing that deal, adding Bellingham in and still running away with the title, can't you? But we'll see what happens. To be honest with you, if Bellingham goes to Liverpool or Man City and we buy 4 players next summer and they're for key positions, a striker, a right back, a midfielder, maybe another centre back, I'd be quite happy. I really would. So we'll have to wait and see. But look, I want to talk about this. This was something I was going to talk about this morning anyway. So Lisandro Martinez, yeah? We know as Manchester United fans what a fantastic start to his career at Manchester United he's had. We also knew that we were buying a player that, although he's 5'9", 5'10", he actually is good in the air. And it prompted something this morning when I woke up early this morning and I was just doing some work and I saw that I think it was Graham Souness was talking about the new coach at Brighton and saying that he's worried he's going to struggle. And I sort of listened to it and I thought, the underlying thing I was getting from Souness is that you think he's going to struggle because he's not British. And, like, there is no logic to this. Like, when was the last British manager to win the Premier League? Unless I'm wrong, it's Sir Alex Ferguson. So, and when was the last British manager to win the Premier League before Sir Alex Ferguson? So, I don't know how we live in a world still where pundits are paid very big money to talk such ignorance, because really that's what it is. And with Lisandro Martinez, we 100% had this. Look, I know who Lisandro Martinez is. If you'd spoke to me about a year ago, I would have said, well, I know who he is. I can't imagine him becoming a Manchester United player. But look, with Ten Hag coming in and Ajax and the summer, you start looking at a player like that and you go, you start to analyse their game a little bit more. And one of the first things you notice about Lisandro Martinez is his height. 5'10" for a centre-back is extraordinary. It's not your typical... And I know you've got people like Koundé, who's around that age, around that height. And God, history, the only centre-back to win the Ballon d'Or since 2000 is Cannavaro, who was 5'10". So it's not restrictive. It's just a little bit unusual to have a centre-back of that height. But within a minute, you can quickly do your research on Lisandro Martinez and figure out that he's actually quite good in the air, despite being 5'10". Many pundits, and I'm not going to name names here, many pundits decided without ever watching this player or watching him for 5 minutes that he's too small for this league. And that ignorance is so dangerous. Nobody gets it 100% right. Nobody gets it 100% right. But the genius of football for me is always the debate, the knowledge that you might end up being proved wrong, but the stubbornness that you're going to stand by your principles. I haven't got a problem with that. But what I do have a problem with is ignorance. I don't respect ignorance in it, especially when we're being fed it through the media, whether it's radio or TV. I remember when the protests happened after the Super League, and there was two pundits on Match of the Day sat there talking to national TV, so millions of people listening, about they can't understand why why fans are protesting against the Glazers when they've spent £1 billion over the last 10 years. And that's just lazy ignorance again. Don't talk on something knowledgeably if you don't know it. If I don't know about something, like I was on the Ben Foster podcast the other day, and I thought it was 4-2 between Spurs and Leicester. I'd missed the last 2 goals, and that was on Monday. So, I'll have an opinion, but I won't start pontificating about something unless I'm sure I know about it. And opinion's absolutely fine, but they've been proven so wrong here, and I'm going to do it. I was watching Bruno's interview, very well spoken, a good captain, says Shahan. Mark, could you do a top 5 striker video? Yeah, we will be doing that. So somebody just said that Sir Alex Ferguson's not British. Yeah, last time I checked, Scotland was part of the UK. So, yeah, you maybe need a bit of a geography test there. Maybe it won't be in the future, but for now, it is. So, I said British, not English. So, anyway, look, this just... I need to tell you this. You might have seen my Twitter this morning, but I need to tell you this. So, looking at the start to this season, yeah? I use a stats place called Y Scout. There's some FB Ref, which is good. Stats Bomb. They're all very, very good. But we're using Y Scout here. So, Premier League, this season, top 5 play. Well, actually, let me explain it. So, which player has won the most aerial duels out of all the centre-backs in the Premier League so far this season, yeah? Lisandro Martinez is number 3 out of clubs in the top 10. So if you're in the reason I've done that is because if you're in the bottom half, you're probably a bit shit. So you're going to have more aerial duels because you're defending more. So out of the top 10 clubs, so current teams in the top 10, like Brentford, Brighton, United, Spurs, Lisandro Martinez is 3rd for aerial duels won. John Stones is number 1, and he has won, John Stones wins... Let me just get this right. Why is this not... This was working. Okay. So John Stones wins 75% of his aerial duels, yeah? Botman wins 75% of his aerial duels. And then in 3rd place is Lisandro Martinez with 70% of his aerial duels out of all the centre-backs in the top 10, right? Van Dijk's just behind him with 69%, and Webster at Brighton is on 69%, right? Now, somebody will say, well, stats, you know, maybe Lisandro Martinez is averaging one aerial duel per game. He still wins it. And John Stones is doing 10. Well, that's not the case, because John Stones actually is averaging 1.5 aerial duels per 90, whereas Lisandro Martinez is averaging 2.1. So, you know, Botman's doing 3.5, admittedly, but Lisandro Martinez is as good in the air as somebody like John Stones. So, you know, it just... My point is here, and I think it's, you know, in an international break, you have the opportunity to do this. In an international break, you have a little bit of downtime where you can actually look into things properly. And it just... I think we need to get to a point now. And Graham Souness is one of the worst, because I hear Souness all the time talking about, if you've played the game, you know, I played the game, you know, and so what? You've played the game and you're ignorant. Like, you are ignorant about players that you don't research. I think that there is an arrogance in punditry. Joshua Pratt says, Matt, I think there's an arrogance in punditry where they think because they've got Champions League medals or European Cup or Premier League medals, that they don't need to do any research. They can just watch somebody and instantly give your opinion on them. And that's where they got it wrong with Lisandro Martinez, because a number of people looked at him in that Brentford first 45 minutes and went, yeah, he's not big enough. He's not big enough. I don't rate him. He's not good enough, right? They've spent no time watching him for Ajax, and they've spent no time researching him. And what happened is, a few of us had to bite our tongue after that Brentford game where he got subbed off at half-time, and the influx of experts telling us that he's not good enough, he's not big enough, it's Ten Hag just bringing in somebody from a league that's not good enough. We just bit our tongue and went, right, okay, I don't believe this is the case, but I've got nowhere to go at the moment because we've just been beaten 4-0 and he got subbed off at half-time. And what's happened in subsequent weeks is we've conceded 2 goals in 4 Premier League games. Our defence has been absolutely rock solid, and Lisandro Martinez has won most of his aerial duels and been brilliant. And the people who knew he was good in the air, i.e. you, who did the research and know about the player, get proved right. And the ignorant people who think, I don't need to do any research. I've played the game. I've won the European Cup. I've won a Champions League, you know. They think they can just watch a game and go, I've played the game. And I think it's starting because I see a lot of things on social media. I see a lot of bullshit on social media. I sometimes completely get it wrong. But the analytical side of the game, it's not just one person in their bedroom now, you know, who's never kicked a ball in their life, but running stats through their computer. There's loads of people talking about players from all over the world, whether it's the MLS, Mexico, wherever. People are very learned now on their players. And I think that pundits are starting to get exposed because all they really want to do is go, look at my Wikipedia page. Look at the medals. I don't need to know what he's done at Ajax. I can see a player. I've played the game. I don't need to look at that. And they are starting to get exposed because... So, you know, when I look at Martinez, I'm thinking about Bilbo Baggins. You know, put him up against Haaland, he's going to destroy him. You know, but it's just lazy. It's lazy. And I always say this, respect on ex-players. They've achieved something most of us never did. They've played at the highest level, and to get there, they've worked really hard to get there. But that's as a footballer. That's well done. Punditry is completely different. Paul Gascoigne is one of the best players I've ever seen. He's not a pundit. And that there endeth the lesson. Just because you played the game doesn't mean you're going to be a good manager and doesn't mean you're a good pundit. And just because you've never played the game doesn't mean you don't understand the game better than anyone who has. There are people I know who have never played the game who I would trust in a million years if I wanted to know about a player over any ex-player who's speaking nationally. And I think that Lisandro Martinez completely emphasises and exposes the issue with some of our mainstream punditry is that they are analysing players on their experience as a player. Well, the game's moved on for a start, and also that's not how it works. That's not how it works anymore. You can't just turn up and put your suit on and have a mic and go, What do you think about Lisandro Martinez then? He's too small. Too small. He's going to get exposed in this league. You know, when they go to West Brom, and Big Sam's whacking big balls in the box. I've played the game. When they put them big balls, he's going to get exposed. I'll tell you that now. Where's my check? 200 grand. Yeah. Is that it? Are we off to down the golf? You know, unfortunately, that's what modern punditry is. They're handed notes. They're handed this, that, and the other. You're not getting what you should get. You're not getting, analytical, researched knowledge. You're getting just stubborn opinion. And Martinez has sat them down completely, because it became very, very obvious in those few days after the Brentford game that these pundits had no bloody clue about who he was, what he did. Probably never watched an Ajax game. And Martinez has completely shown them up. We need to judge him against more tall strikers, says Robert McCormack. Hey, Robert! Martinez will get exposed. He could have given a penalty away against Arsenal. He will get exposed because no defender doesn't get exposed. Van Dijk's been exposed. He's been exposed this season. He's still one of the best centre-backs in the world. Saliba will get exposed at some point. Vidic got put on his arse by Torres at Old Trafford. Rio got done by Bellamy. If he got done by Bellingham, he was in big trouble because Bellingham would have been about 8 when Rio was playing. But Bellamy did him in the Manchester derby. Every top centre-back will get done. We don't live on a world of FIFA where everything's flawless. Like, centre-backs will make a mistake. But I'll tell you this now, right? People get very protective about their opinions. If Haaland scores a header against Man City, everyone will go, I told you about Martinez. I've played the game. I told you. But Erling Haaland, if you ran a poll, is probably the best striker in the world at the moment. If he scores a header against Martinez, he scores a header against Martinez. Next week, we'll probably keep a clean sheet when he's playing up against Maupay or Calvert-Lewin. So I agree with you, Robert, to a certain extent, but I also think that it was lazy punditry based on ignorance. Oh, he's small, therefore he's going to get exposed. Have you watched the Premier League for the last few years? How many crosses are coming into the box for tall strikers? How many long balls are going up for tall strikers? And actually, the only time you're going to get exposed by a tall striker if you're not very big is crosses into the box. What? Set pieces where we've got Ronaldo, Varane, McTominay, Casemiro, all good in the air. There's a very finite time when Martinez will get in trouble, and that's when we get broke upon, 2v2s, whatever, and they've got an opportunity to put the ball in the box. It's not a massive part of the game anymore. And also, I don't think he's terrible in the air. Daniel says, Simon Jordan actually said Erik ten Hag isn't the man because he wore a suit that was too big for him. Apparently, winners dress better. Klopp wears a tracksuit, says Daniel Kirk. Shira, welcome to the members club as well. Thank you very much for that. Saki never played football professionally, says JC. We live in a world where, I could go and sit on a show now with an ex-player and apparently my opinion wouldn't matter because I've never played the game. That is bullshit. Complete bullshit. And it is. But I think as fans, sometimes we do ourselves a disservice because, I said something on Talk Sport at the weekend about Jack Grealish, and Paul Dickoff, who's an ex-Man City player, sort of tweeted me about it. And people were like, put him in his box, Paul, put him in his box. This is a guy who's played at the highest level and he's meant to be listening to somebody who's never played. Well, I'm sorry, I've never subscribed to that view. I don't personally believe that if you've played the game at the highest level, your opinion's any better than anybody else's, because we've just exposed the fact that a lot of the time they get... look at most ex-Man United players didn't want Ten Hag. They wanted Pochettino. Some of them wanted Simeone. That, to me, I respect them as ex-players, and actually I enjoy a lot of their punditry, but I don't think that they're the font of all knowledge. I really don't, because I think that there's many examples of ignorance or inaccuracy or just poor opinion, which we're all capable of, but they're not the oracle. And I love it when people like Martinez, have done what they've done, because it does expose them. Anyway, interesting. But yeah, I found it quite interesting. And also, just as a side as well, I just want to mention this because I'm a massive fan, and I didn't really know him in the Bundesliga. I'll put my hands up. I'm a massive fan of Bolakachuk at Southampton, and if I was Manchester United, I'd be looking at this player now. I'm absolutely convinced if he avoids injury, he will be playing for Liverpool or Man City or Bayern Munich in the next 3 years, and he will be one of the best centre-backs. Just mentioning things that he's done, successful defensive actions per 90 at the moment. He is, as a centre-back, well, to be honest with you, look at the top three. To be honest, I didn't mean to do this, but basically, successful defensive actions per 90. So this is tackling, intercepting, aerial duels. Top 5 centre-backs in the Premier League at the moment. Anderson at Palace, who I think is brilliant as well. He's averaging 14.2 successful defensive actions per 90. So Anderson at Palace, who's having a brilliant season. Second place, Martinez at Manchester United with 13.07. And then third place, you've got Senesi at Bournemouth. And then fourth place, you've got Belakachuk at Southampton. He's having a bloody fantastic season. Absolutely fantastic. Let's have a look at some other bits as well. Also, defensive duels won. So he's in the top 3 for successful defensive actions per 90. Defensive duels won per 90. 5.3 per 90, Belakachuk. In second place, 3.9. So the drop-off is huge. He's averaging 5.3 defensive duels won per 90. He's averaging 5.3 defensive duels per 90. Tyrone Mings is in second place with 3.9. I mean, that's beast mode, that is. How physical and how much he's getting involved. It's absolutely amazing. Fantastic. He's doing really, really well at... and then, oh my God. He is winning 82% of his defensive duels. So he's doing 5.3 defensive duels per 90 and winning 83% of them. In second place, Tyrone Mings is doing 3.9 and winning 82% of them. So he's on beast mode. Top 5 centre-backs for defensive duels won: Belakachuk, Mings, Webster, Saliba, Janalt at Brentford. And then you've got Salisu, Diaz, Llorente, Silva, Guehi, Collins, Sanchez. Martinez is in the sort of top 15, but he's a beast of a defender, Belakachuk, and I'll be stunned if someone doesn't get hold of him, because I think he's a fantastic player. Mourinho never played the game at a high level. He started as a translator at Barcelona, says Daniel Kirk. Yeah, neither did Wenger. So there we go. What's he like? Well, passing is probably going to be something that he needs to work on. But I think he's fantastic. And I think Saliba's very good as well. But, I think it's always nice when you spot a player and you think they're going to be very, very special. And, he's only played a handful of games, though. So we'll have to wait and see. Thanks, everyone, for watching. We've got a really good interview coming up for you at 2 o'clock. So check it out. You'll be looking forward to that. And I will be on live at 8 o'clock as well. So lots to get involved with. Really enjoyed the show this morning. Don't forget, on your way out, scan the QR code, Manscaped, 20% off and free worldwide shipping. If you are a man, you've got to get yourself some Manscaped. Trust me, you will be absolutely happy with it. Trim the grass to make the yard look bigger. Manscaped, shipped worldwide, free, 20% off as well. Check it out. I'll speak to you all in a bit. Fantastic show, everyone. Really enjoyed it.